you feel like the administration was complicit in the racism directed at Trystan, or was actually just oblivious to the extent of bullying that was occurring? I want to answer that too.
Oh, that's such a good question. Okay. They knew about what was going on. So after that teacher did some investigation, that assistant principal did some investigation, he spoke with several Trystan's teachers. Several Trystan's teachers reached out and contacted me and apologized for not taking that event more seriously, especially the teacher that observed the confrontation in the hallway about 2 weeks to that, where that boy was kicking Trystan. She actually took Trystan out of line and moved him to the front, and then told the child that if he didn't stop, then he was going to have to go to the office. They knew it was happening, and they did nothing about it. And the administration spoke with the teachers, and they all confirmed that they had witnessed some part of this bullying that had escalated over the 2-week period, and just didn't even report it. They never even reported it to administration.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, I'm a career mathematics teacher. I've taught in high schools and middle schools, and currently I teach at a community college. And one thing that people don't understand about schools is, like, first of all, it's very common that bullying goes unnoticed in schools. Because, number one, just like Trystan was reporting, people don't want to report it because they're afraid of being labeled a snitch. That's one issue. The second issue is there are teachers out there who don't want to deal with it, right? Who don't want to actually take responsibility for dealing with the situation in their classroom. Or if it's outside of their classroom, some teachers feel like it's not their responsibility if they see it. You know, so there's other issues like that. There's a lot of barriers for students to get support sometimes. And a lot of it has to do with school culture. Now, in this case, as Heather just reported, they did know what was going on, but they chose not to take it seriously enough and not to nip it in the bud and stop it, which is exactly why it escalated, right? And we see this all the time in many different contexts, right? Leaving problems to kind of fester and build, and then there's an explosion. So that's kind of what happened in this case. Were the teachers ever held accountable for not reporting the issues they witnessed? I mean, I doubt, like, teachers typically don't get punished for stuff like that. Then there's not really too much that you can do to hold a teacher accountable as well, like aside from exactly what they did, right? Which was apologize directly to you.
Yeah, they did. One of Trystan's teachers, his advanced ELA teacher, she cried when she found out exactly what had transpired in the cafeteria. She was like, I'd seen that these incidents were occurring, you know, boys are boys. And I really, you know, that was not the first time we heard the boys are boys. The administrator said boys are boys. And I said, you know, my biggest thing is your rights end where mine begin. So boys can be boys, but when you're actually taking, or, you know, saying things that go against my rights as a human, as a person, boys will be boys is no longer an excuse. Now, his ELA teacher was really upset, and she cried and she apologized, and she was like, I'm so sorry that I wasn't more present and more aware. But they were never the science teacher, the ELA teacher, the math teacher, the social studies teacher that saw the kicking. Like, they were all present for those activities as they led up over a 2-week time span, and they never were reprimanded ever for what happened.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's typically the way things happen, you know. In terms of teacher accountability, there's a problem there, right? And there's also a problem with administrator accountability because I mean, the truth of the matter is, at least from my perspective, teachers are mandated reporters, right? Like, we are mandated to report these incidents by law, in fact. So there are avenues that can be taken in order to hold teachers accountable, but they're pretty extreme, which is why it doesn't happen that often. What would you say is the most important piece of advice for other parents regarding an incident like this?
That's a good question. So my biggest thing and my devastation really laid where I thought everything was okay. I didn't really feel the need to sit down and have a conversation about my son's ethnicity because, at the same time, I felt like, oh, well, I knew he was having some issues fitting in. He didn't quite fit in. But, on one side versus the other, he's not really accepted into some Latino circles because he's not full-blooded or, he's not 100% Latino. He doesn't speak Spanish. Some, Caucasian circles he travels in, he's the odd one out. So he's always kind of had this, and then he's super intelligent and he just doesn't really fit in with certain groups. And I knew he was having some issues as typical transition. As a parent, felt like I knew something was going on because of his behavior, but he wouldn't tell me and I didn't poke or prod. So I think the biggest thing is you sit down and you bring awareness to the fact that this can happen. And I'm even more, with the way things are now, it's even more imperative that I sit down and have conversations with him. Because there are Latinos in Guilford County that are being targeted. And it's scary being a parent to a child that's not completely white. And that's a very rude awakening and that, we have to face nowadays. I don't even let Trystan go to the park and play basketball with his friends. I don't let him walk down the street of fear of him being targeted because of his ethnicity.
Yeah, and just so people understand that that's not an exaggeration, why don't you tell them a little bit about your neighbor?
Yes. We have a neighbor that moved in across the street. We've been here about 10 years. Well, probably a little bit less than that. She moved in about 7-8 months ago. And we've had a lot of issues with her. She's Native American. And we've had some interactions back and forth with her. She doesn't like that we park on the street. We have a workshop in the back of our house where my husband and his team build custom cabinets for his job. And I remember specifically on December the 24th, they were having a luncheon for the laborers that work for my husband's company and using the building behind the house because it's fairly big, for them to have a luncheon. And I got a phone call. I was working. I got a phone call that she was out there yelling, which she's done it before, at the people that were parking on the side of the street. I rushed home because they were Latino, and a lot of them don't speak English. And she was taking pictures of license plates, saying that she worked for the city and that she was going to have immigration out here in 5 minutes. She took pictures of their license plates. And then when I came up and I'm like, what is going on? She told me I was going to go to jail for harboring illegals. And then, we started going back and forth and she threatened me. And I made the comment, I said, oh, so, you're threatening me? And she said, bring it on, white woman. I said, oh, are you not white too? And she was like, no, I'm Native American. It was just going back and forth, and, being told that they're going to call immigration. And this is our neighbors. We own our house. It's not like we can pick and choose, who our neighbors. We have a Latino neighbor that she had been harassing to the point to where, she called, and threatened to have his dog that was outside barking, have his dog picked up by the ASPCA. She made false reports to animal control that our dogs had attacked her and kept her in the house, or kept her locked in her house so she couldn't come out. And our dogs had never been there. And that prompted an investigation with animal control. Just being targeted and tormented. And it all started when I put my Biden Harris sign out in the yard. So we were cool with her up until that situation. And then she started just spewing hatred. And it's been just terrible since then that we've had to seek legal recourse.
Man, so yeah, you're just getting it from all sides, and I hope people understand that. I think a lot of people sometimes mistakenly believe that racism doesn't affect people who are white, and it's like obviously that's not true. Here you are, case in point, getting it from all sides because you married a Latino man and you have biracial kids. And so you're going to end up having to deal with this situation as well.
Thanks for watching. For access to the full-length conversation and all of the 2-hour-long unedited conversations that I've had on race, click the support link in the description below. Thanks for your support and see you next time.